Hey, 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 welcome back to James Hates Everything. Tonight we are talking about Iconic Arcade, of course, the company who blew the doors off the home arcade scene when it debuted its new prototype cabs at CES. This week has been crazy with news on those products. We're going to talk about all of that and a little bit of new information. So stick with us. We're getting into it. All right, everybody. Once again, thank you for joining us tonight. Before we get started, I just want to thank everybody and say hi to people who dropped by in the chat. Of course, we have Jason Little Alien who came for those cookies. We have the Be Me is here. We have Thumper Squid. We have John Fritz who says, "Do we actually get a cookie this time?" And the good news is you always get a cookie. It's a search engine cookie. So enjoy. We have Jason S., who is talking about he likes some of the improvements he's seen and may want to pre-order that if may want to pre-order if it opens back up. We have Vic Vicious, who says any new news is good news. Paul Mindeman dropping by, who says Iconic doesn't create cabinets just for trade show purposes. Brooklyn Menace, always nice to see you. Thanks for dropping by. Got to go out to Long Island Retro last weekend and take a look at about every new light gun vendor on the planet who was there showing off their stuff. So pretty cool. Go check out his channel and look at that coverage if you want to see in-depth views of all those things. J-Rod is here. We have, let's see, who else? We have My Cock Hurts and wants to know why no one can learn to swim. Let's see, P-Dubs is here, who is saying Iconic is having a hell of a week. Certainly true. And I noticed P-Dubs wants me to turn the gain down, but I don't know why. Is it because I'm talking too much into the mic, too far away? You tell me. Jim the Pacers fan says, hope everyone is having a great Thursday. Thumper Squid is here. Yes, I had a countdown, but I started it before the time, so you didn't have to sit through it if you joined right at the right time. Biggie D is in the house. Gramps Arcade is here. Prince Vinny, MSU Rich. We got the sauciest of meatballs. Thanks for dropping by. We have JJ. Hey to you too. We've got John Ryan and Joysticks. Thanks for dropping by. Ritual Dello, who I believe was out there with Mr. Menace this past weekend at Long Island Retro. Israel is in the house. Thanks for coming by. We have Chris Ford is here. And I think that gets us caught up. So there you go. Excellent. I want to thank everybody again for dropping by. And before we get too started, I do have a little business to take care of last week. So I dropped that down here on this thing. Of course, I promised a giveaway and I forgot. So we had everybody come back after the stream and drop comments in that video's chat in order to enter, and we did the drawing just before going live, and here is our winners. If you were a winner, email me. The address is on the screen or in the description, and we will get you set up. These are all the Steam versions of these games, so you do have to have a PC. But, as soon as I get your email, I'll send you over the code and you can start playing right away. And I'll leave that up on the screen for a little bit. And again, I appreciate everybody for dropping by last week and this week, because it's a lot of news going on. So let's just jump right into it. Of course, you guys, I know you have seen some of this, but Michael B broke some news over the weekend with our first look at the iconic arcade user interface. And so just sharing that here if you haven't seen it. So hat tip for Michael B for sharing these images. There are a few things I wanted to talk about as we look at the UI. Some of the stuff that really I don't think has been covered much that I thought was interesting that popped out. And so I started asking about it. And you'll notice up in the corner here where you have your gamer tag, essentially. You'll also notice we have a little avatar picture here, and I can zoom in for you guys there. And so you can see it's got my name through the magic of AI, and it's got my own special avatar here, which is Chris Redfield. So our first little bit of not really new news, but something I asked about after seeing the screenshots was this setup. And you will be able to choose your own avatar from a list of provided avatars. So something I think is new to kind of home arcade. I know when you get Arcade 1-Up or at games, you're just putting your gamer tag in and calling it a day. But here you can see there's some extra attention brought into the online community. So once again, you'll have a list of Capcom avatars to select from. And I did confirm that our friends at Resident Evil will be represented in that list, among others. Of course, you can imagine all the Street Fighter figures or characters will be there, among others. So very interested, very interested to see the next step of this online experience. Are we going to be able to communicate with other people? I don't know. I don't think so. That hasn't been promised. I don't see any hookups or anything, but it is a pie, so you never know. So very interested. Of course, obviously you have settings for the games and visible there. And here's our games list with one of our mystery games, which I think everybody now knows is that mystery game does appear to be Giga Wing 1. So not a big shocker there. You can kind of tell that through the image, and a lot of people have been able to suss that out. Here is another screenshot, and of course, using the Netflix or this kind of tile experience where you get a little preview of the game as you're flipping through, and your games are sorted by the ones you're playing, by the genre, which ones are popular, all the good stuff. And Fox is here. Thanks for dropping by. And yeah, so the UI definitely looks really good in my opinion. This is another one of these secret games, and I've heard a variety of people speculating that this might be a couple different games. Of course, what is it? I'm drawing a blank. Dragon, whatever. Let me think here. As my brain shuts down. I was trying to do that myself and using AI to decode, right? So King of Dragons. I don't know why my brain was farting. And then, of course, the other possibility I've heard or seen people talking about is Warriors of Fate. So for me, honestly, I've looked at both of those, and it's hard to see how that fits in either of those images myself. But maybe you guys have guesses. I'd be really interested in you thinking what you guys think is that hidden title sitting there. But very interesting. And of course, you can see the list of games just by looking at this, right? You get the ones that all these Street Fighter ones, and you get the Knights of the Round and Captain Commando. So a lot of good hints as to what's coming on there. The Third Strike, Alpha, Super Street Fighter Turbo, Alpha 3, Alpha 2. The classic Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Street Fighter Hyper Fighting, Hyper Street Fighter Anniversary. So like some of the obvious, and then of course Giga Wing 2, Pro Gear, 1944, Final Fight, Captain Commando, Knights of the Round, and a couple of bonus games there. We'll circle back to those bonus games in a little bit. Now, next up is courtesy of 19K Fox. And I hope it's Cadillacs and dinosaurs. And that is one good guess. I would love it to be Cadillacs and dinosaurs. That would be awesome. And again, this image is courtesy of 19K Fox. So hat tip to him. It's a good comparison of what we saw at CES and what is going to be coming. Of course, we have that slightly bigger screen, 19.5 inches. We got a bigger marquee. It's going to be taller. It's going to be wider. So you're basically getting the full width of the original. So you're not crowding around each other. If you think the real one is wide enough, well, then you should be happy because this one, the player positions are just as wide. And I know 19K Fox covered a lot of this. You've got the kind of placement of the USB here. It's turned from white to black. We've got this rubber strip up here. Of course, player 1 and player 2, I am kind of curious what these extra buttons are. You would think like maybe one was a live button, but there are 2 of them. So I'm not quite sure what those are. We have our power button over here on the left and our volume knob right over here. So that's pretty interesting. And I think 19K Fox mentioned this as well. It definitely appears like they're probably using now a 16:9 monitor underneath there. Now that it's wider, you have a little extra room, which should cut down on production costs. And since it's masked with a proper bezel art, us, the players, won't really notice, right? We'll get that 4:3 look, and it's not odd shaped. It's the right shape, the right scale in every dimension, so it looks natural. I really like that. We have a $4.99 super chat says, James, you were there. What do you think of the wider form factor? Yes, and so I did neglect to mention that. I was one of the few YouTubers, and again, thank you, Fox, for the $4.99 super chat. I was one of the few YouTubers that got a chance to go see these prototypes in person, to get to play them, to get to look all through them and really check them out. And I thought they looked amazing then. Obviously, there were areas of improvement. There was a steeper angle on the deck that probably needed to be slightly steeper. There were a little bit of gap in there with the screen. There were some areas of improvement. I think a lot of the areas on the look of it have been addressed. What do I think about the bigger size? I think it's not drastic, and I think what we're going an extra 1.5 inches roughly wide and 1 inch taller. To me, it's not. I probably won't even notice it, honestly, the difference. I mean, maybe if I'm playing 2-player, it'll feel a little different with that extra 1.5 inches on there. But let's face it, most of the time I'm not going to be playing 2-player unless it's with one of my kids. So for me, I like the idea that it's a little bigger. I think it's we're basically near full size at this point. I don't know how you get much bigger than that without it being one of those giant cabs like Big Red or Big Blue. And so I think it looks good. It's nearing full size, so hitting that sweet spot for people who want full size cabs but yet have an affordable option. They're able to keep the price down for that bigger size. So I like it. I think the little wider bezels, because it does look like the bezels are a little wider. I think the artwork is done to where you probably aren't going to notice it. I'll like to see it in person, which I will be doing since I pre-ordered one back in the day. But I do like what I'm seeing. It's not it's not noticeable. It's not like when I look at an at games and it looks odd because of the wide screen. At least with this bezel, it's covered up. And yeah, it does look like that. Does this confirm Double Dragon revive? If I were a betting man, I would say we're probably better than 50-50 odds that Double Dragon options may be in our future. Again, I don't know anything specifically either, but I've seen a lot of winky faces online and some other comments. So, and obviously, when you've seen the two out there physically produced and what they look like and kind of how these look now, it doesn't take a wild guess to think that maybe those are in our future. But nothing's official till it's official. All that jazz. Again, thanks for the follow-up super chat. Jason S, I know, loves that. And I really want a Double Dragon as well, so I'm fired up about it. And Dr. Court dropped by. Any photos of the whole Alpha 2 cab? So the only photos I have of the Alpha 2 are old. You can see those in my video or Fox's videos on the CES. Those are the only ones that I have available. But we do have one little photo we'll talk about here in a second that's portioned of it that I think I know it left me with a lot of questions and may have left a lot of viewers with questions. And that is this control deck, right? So I looked at this and I was immediately in full panic. I'll say that. So this is the white trim, right? So and if you look here at the art and the bezel art, hey Galaga guy, what's up? When you look at here, you can tell this is the Street Fighter Alpha 2 cab, and immediately I'm like, what happened? This is a 90-degree angle here. I'm in full-fledged panic mode. I'm like, they didn't change this shape change. What's going on? Obviously, this changed. It went from the diamond plate to this new style. And so, again, I think Fox showed this off, and I immediately started asking questions because I was concerned. And I've been told by sources that not to worry. The shape is the same. It is the same as we saw over here. It is, of course, the HS1. It will have the angled deck. It will just have that new wrap on it. So you will get the new color. The diamond plate won't be there. It will be this. But it'll be at the HS1 angle and shape we know and love. And just to give you an idea, I think it was Paul Mindeman that put this together and shared this on Facebook. This is just showing some original Street Fighter Alpha 2 cabs that you could find out there. And you see like those pictures show the same artwork. I know Fox shared this image, and I think maybe Paul made this. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But again, appreciate all those guys for sharing this stuff, putting that info out there. One of the other things we know that I don't know how much has been talked about. Just make sure. Oh, yeah. So here's the other thing. Another image Fox shared. I'll just show this real quick. Is just showing how you have the perfect alignment on the controls with the original arcade controls. So again, perfect positioning for what the original arcade had. So you're basically getting full-size controls on there, which is super cool. So again, hat tip to Fox for sharing those yesterday. It's pretty cool to see all that stuff. I know I enjoyed it. Now, let's talk about some of and Paul confirmed. I just wanted to make sure that Paul did put that image together. I think it was a great comparison to show the design. The art is more original. Than what was in the prototype. So very cool. Is this real? It is real, Biggie. It's all real. So, one of the other things we know, courtesy of Paul Mindeman and his secret agents, is that uh, this cab that we've been waiting on since CES, since back in January, that got delayed for a few times because of tariffs and whatnot, is now scheduled and looking to ship on time. So, what we understand is this should ship by the end of October from China, make its way to the US to hit retail. And if everything goes well, and I stress that because it'll be the heart of the winter time, if everything goes well, those who have already pre-ordered, who went and pre-ordered in that first wave, should have their cabinets in home around Christmas or before New Year's. So let's hope that everything goes perfect and that happens. But it's good to see we're moving forward. We're starting to see lots more information, really exciting stuff. I know I'm really getting excited because this is something I purchased, 8 months ago at this point, and am ready to get in my arcade and actually get to play the final version. And so it's nice this week, again, not only hearing a ship date, but seeing the UI, seeing the new cabinet designs. Of course, they had the vote announcement last week. And so I know 1 and 3 were running neck and neck. I think I heard 3 is now kind of out in front a little bit. I don't know how far. So if the voting's still going and you care, you should go cast your vote. I personally did not vote, even though I was sent the vote, because I did pre-order, because I did not pre-order the World Warrior cab. And so I don't want to dilute the vote of people who actually did pre-order that so that they can get the one they want. Not the one I think looks the best, but the one they think looks the best. So very excited there. So now we got to do what we got to do. And Paul says, we didn't get to vote on the control deck pattern. I don't think we didn't, Paul, but it is more original. So I can give it a pass there, though I really did like the diamond plate. B Kirby's here, says he can't wait for his Alpha 2. It looks great. It absolutely does. Diamond plate greater than static TV. I agree, Vic Vicious. I really liked what they had come up with on the diamond plate. But I can forgive the static knowing that was what was used. Gallagher Guy says, do you think they will release the UI, like it actually working, not pictures? I'm curious about that. I would doubt it. And I say that because whoever asked to see an Arcade 1-Up UI, has anybody asked to see the basic fun UI? I think a lot of us wanted to see the iconic arcade UI because there's a history of iconic, right? We know what they put out previously. There's delays in there, and there was a lot of rumors going around. So I think for a lot of people, the UI represented progress, and so there was a lot of demand to see the UI, along with any other news, right? What was the final design of the World Warrior cab going to look like? What is the online experience going to look like? There's questions like, how is playtesting going? I know, obviously, I think Justin Wong, if I understand right, is involved with the beta testing of this along with others. So, there's some really good things going on out there, and we just wanted to see it. We've had our hopes dashed again and again and again for the last 2 or 3 years, with Arcade 1-Up doing nothing, with the hopes that, hey, they did this great Pac-Man XL, we're going to get this great XL in 2024, and it ended up being that Golden Tee Midway Franken cab. And then we have all this just nothing in 2025 until they snuck out some reissues there at the very end. And so just people are just tired of being disappointed, and we've wanted any info, anything to make all of these new products we've been told about more real. And so just seeing the UI to me is a big deal. Um, so I like that. It's also good. I think I see here that P-Dubs talks about the original At Games UI, right? I think that's great. I think people wanted also to make sure they weren't getting some kind of bare bones monstrosity or something that really did not look good. If you think some of the more modern Arcade 1-Up UI, like honestly, the UI for that Franken cab that I've seen where it's just the logos all on one screen, I get it, but it's not very exciting, is it? You're not getting any dynamic UI like you would even get from off the shelf stuff like, um, some of the main builds and things like that. So it's like we have an expectation these days of a more dynamic, more interesting UI. And with the extra horsepower around the Pi 5, you should be able to deliver that. And I think that's what Iconic is going for. And so, hey, we can be excited that we have a more modern user experience that we've been looking for. And like I said, from the hints on the UI with the avatars and the profile, it's looking like you're even getting a more console-like online experience. So it's not just some basic stuff. There's a little more meat under the hood. And so I like that. And 19K fuss, I'm not asking for anything more than I would expect from any other country. Then again, I'm not a sycophant to suck up. So there you go. So look, I've said repeatedly that we needed to see more info, and we're finally getting some. And it would be great to see more. I would have loved to seen a strategy like Wonderland took, where they're showing the progress all along, keeping you along for the journey. I would have loved for that to be what Iconic Arcade was doing. They didn't choose to, but at least we're getting some information now. Video Game Vegas says the UI for Iconic looks decent. I'm not into larger cabs nor ones without risers, but I'm so happy with these. Will be available for those who like them. Nice positive attitude. B. Kirby says it's a foolish thing to demand the UI and all these other things. You all know John D being involved in this, so it will be good. I just wanted updates on how it was looking and time-wise. Yeah, I think overall, I think that's what people really wanted to see. They wanted to see progress because it had been so quiet. And at the same time, you had Wonderland out there giving an example of, look at all these things we're doing. But at the same time, think basic fun, right? They dribbled out some information in a podcast that was later scrubbed from the internet and was essentially quiet until something popped up on a toy magazine, and then they've been completely quiet again. So, they're not being asked to show all these other things either, but they're a much bigger and established toy company, or however you want to look at it. I mean, Basic Fun is a toy company. Will the Iconic Arcade storefront have reasonable pricing? Will Cool Ranch Dorito ever taste better than cheesy Doritos? Questions we need answers to. Well, Devastator, I think Cool Ranch is the better Dorito, but I do love a nacho cheese Dorito as well. So I'm glad you mentioned the storefront. So that brings us to some
breaking news from the Arcade News Network.
Ridiculous AI videos. Now, so let's talk about a few of the new things, not just UI pictures, not just that stuff. So you talked about the storefront. So I think this is pretty interesting stuff. So at launch, as you guys have seen, there are 2 mystery games in the UI. If you pre-ordered, you will get both of those games for free. So they are included. Um, and the goal would be to eventually build some sort of mechanism for you to be able to purchase additional titles in the future. But for now, as titles are available, you will be able to add them for free to your cab. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's an establishment of an ecosystem, right? This particular cabinet is Capcom. The games that you can get on it will be Capcom. You won't be able to get other titles. So I think that's really interesting. Like, hey, you're going to be getting additional games that you didn't know you were getting, and you're going to get them for free. So I think that's nice. That's a big bonus right there. We also have to debunk a little bit of misinformation that has been going out there, right? And I'm probably just as guilty as anybody about this misinformation. And that is the thought that MG, that is the idea that because this is a it's Memorex. That is because of the fact that they're using the Pi 5. The assumption is that it will be pretty easy to just sideload new games on, or that you'd be able to pop out an SD card and stick in a new build and just run with it. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's not what you're going to be able to do. There is steps and measures taken to secure the device. So I'm sure somebody will try to hack it. I know a few people love doing those things, but in general, unless somebody does come up with a hack, you are not just going to be able to sideload your own games on this device. So if you want to use it as a multicade, you will have to be doing other things like buying your own Pi 5 and swapping out the one that comes with it, because it will not be one that you can just get into. So that's what I'm told on that front. So little bit of that's just it. You won't be able to do that, right? There won't be any SD card swapping. You won't have that capability. So you will have to replace the onboard Pi 5 with something different if you want to be able to load your own stuff on there. So there's that. So we can kind of put that to bed. Well, that is what I am being told, is that it's not built that way. So no side loading, no SD card replacements, all that fun stuff. So the next thing is, and there's a lot more. So I mentioned with the UI and that you get those 2 free games. This is the fun thing. It's an ecosystem, as I mentioned, and Capcom, there will be future Capcom cabinets released. You know, our Iconic's plan, which they've said since CES, is to release 500 to 1,000 of any one SKU and then move on to another cabinet or design. And so I have a small list of potential new cabinets. But what you need to know is that when each new cabinet comes out, it will, of course, come with new games, but it will also come with all the old games. And you might be saying, well, what does that do to me if I pre-order? Do I only get these old games? And the answer to that is no. You will also get the new games, though not at launch of the new cabs. You will get access to those a little later down the road. So even if you are like myself, you bought in early, you got that World Warrior, that Street Fighter 2, you're kind of future proof. If you don't want to buy any other cab designs, you're still going to get access to new games that become available. Likewise, if you are holding out for your favorite design, you want that big blue Alien versus Predator they're talking about, as a potential cab, well, you'll get that, and then you'll get all the stuff that is on this current release as well. Maybe you want a Final Fight cab, another one that they are talking about. Um, Maybe a Ghost and Goblins, or um, you know, there's a few on that list that is pretty interesting. I know some that I'm definitely interested in. Um, or it looks like a Power Stone 1 or 2 cab. How, you guys big Power Stone fans? So pretty interesting possibilities in the future. Those are all ones I think they're trying to release. But again, each Capcom one, you'll get into that Capcom ecosystem and have access to all those things, which makes you wonder about future cabs from other companies too, right? Maybe some other things under the hood there. Um, it's a Microsoft Zune, big limitations. Let's see here. KB says, tell me the cabinet, tell me what the other cabinets will be. I want to hear it. Well, I just gave you a list of possible other cabinets that are being discussed, like AVP on the Big Blue, Power Stone 1 and 2, Ghost and Goblins, a Final Fight cab. P-Dubs has it figured out. Simple Pi swap gives you a whole new machine. Yeah, absolutely. Like if you want to, make it a multicade, you just bring your own Pi 5, you swap out the existing one, and you have yours, and you can use it to do whatever. But the stock one is going to protect the licensors, and it's a licensed cab, legally owned software. So, to me, that's a good thing, with the ability to add games into the future, always a good thing. So it's future proof. Let's see here. Yeah, it's technically already a multicade. Yes, it's a multiple titles on a single cade. It's a multicade, but it's a replica cabinet that plays, a limited selection of fully licensed titles. It's not your traditional multicade, running a lot of off-the-shelf software, though. This, I don't know what emulators and stuff under the hood are running. Yeah, they're using the iOmega zip drive. Yep. Nope. You got to dig out the old 5 1/4 inch floppies. That's where all the game code is living. Tekken XL. Well, I can confirm that P-Dubs confirmed, that Michael B confirmed that that's a real thing. So Tekken XL, maybe. You never know. A little later means 6 months, a year. I as far as how long when you get those extra games, who knows at this point, right? It really depends. With such limited quantities of kind of each design coming out, they're meant to be, in the market and gone, right? So I don't know if they're planning annual releases or how that works, but I would imagine they're looking at some sort of honeymoon period, so that you, as the person who purchased the cab, maybe get that advanced, you get the access to that game for a few months before, like, everybody else. I don't know. I don't think that's something that's fully developed all the way out. Obviously, we haven't even gotten the first releases of cabs yet, let alone additional ones. We also know within that period, there's rumors of a whole nother cab set coming out from, potentially one we may or may not have already seen, right? So if that one's coming, you got a whole nother ecosystem and lists of games and opportunities there. So it should be interesting. I know it will give a lot of options to people in the future. But these are bigger machines, right? These are basically full-size cabs. They're XXL, right? As close as you can get to full-size cabs. And they're going to take up a lot more room. So I don't anticipate a lot of people being able to buy like every cab that's released, because that's going to take up a ton of space. So people are going to want to pick the cabs that they really have the most emotional connection with, but still have the ability to play all those other games and not be left behind. It says, mean in theories, he's right. If it's running a Pi, all you got to do is swap out the SIM card and it should work as long as the Pi can handle what's on it. Yeah, and depending on how that Pi board is put together, right? If it's not got that, you might not be able to do that. Some obscure cabs would be killer. Yep. Late 2026 Raspberry Pi 6 might get released. Swap out for more horsepower. Absolutely. Um, so iconic cabinets will only make Capcom. No, they're starting with a Capcom and they will continue to have Capcom, but there are rumors of, and of course we saw some cabs for Arc System Works, the Double Dragon Revive out at the Arc, what is it? The Arc Arc World Tour. And yes, we were told at the time that was just special one-offs. They're still in the process of making this Capcom cab, so they're focused on that. But I would not be shocked if that's the next set of cabs. Like I said, I don't know for sure, but I've seen a lot of winky faces online. Let's see. I am unhappy with news. Okay. Uh, obscure cabs. How about Qbert? I would love a YR Kung Fu. Yep. Imagine a Konami ecosystem, what you'd have access to there. And I certainly hope Fox is right and we get a Cadillacs and dinosaurs on that cab. How cool would that be? We've never had a dedicated shoot 'em up cab like 1943. I totally agree. I would love that. Um, uh, multicades lead to too much redundancy in games. For me, you know what multicades do to me, and I find this even with the ones that, when I just do PC builds, is it's like Netflix or Amazon Prime. I mean, how often do you turn on Amazon Prime and you're like, there's nothing to watch? And there's literally probably 5,000 shows, 10,000 shows and movies on there. Same with Netflix. You can be doom scrolling all day long looking for something. You just get overwhelmed by options. And when you have too many options, you never land on anything. At least that's a problem for me. I know I've heard other people say that. So for me, that's one of the biggest challenges with multicades is where's that sweet spot of loading just how much like you're actually going to play and not going berserk and going overboard, so that you don't get that overwhelmed by too many options. I know for me that's hard because we've been grown we grew up in this consumerist society that told us we got to catch them all. So you want to load up your multicades and your PC builds with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of games, and then again you get into it and you're like, there's just too many options, I don't even know what to play. And I guarantee you in your lifetime you're probably only going to play at most 200 or 300 of those if you can even find the time, which means you've got thousands of other things on there that you're never even going to touch. J Rod says all bangers. Angie says, oh, Miniman. Okay, I got to read the whole sentence before I throw that up there. When will anyone finally release a goddamn Qbert cab? I agree with you, Vic Vicious. It seems like an obvious one. You need to put the pressure on G.I. Joel to nix the Robotron and go with Qbert next. I know Stock Jock will love that. Sathia says, hello. Thanks for dropping by. There is Dane Bramage. In all fairness, Paul, image builders using front ends like CoinOps, Batacera, Recall, RetroPie themes all look 100% better than the UI these home arcade companies use. I don't disagree. There's a lot of talented people in these communities that come up with some really, really cool UIs. Yeah, pretty impressive stuff. I'm glad it's being made, but weird decision here for me. I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Iconic is no longer on the VMI website. So that's one of the other things. I know Fox mentioned that this came from Fox. I didn't hear it anywhere else. That they're talking about reopening pre-orders when they arrive through Amazon or right before they arrive. So if you missed out, you're now seeing things that maybe make you want to take the jump. That'll be the place. Have no idea what the cost will be. Right. I know that depending on the kind of cabinets and stuff they're building, Iconic has a certain price range they're trying to target. And they're trying to, I think, hit the top end of the home arcade fan market, right? They're looking for people that want the more real experience, but the more competitive online experience. That's the other thing I neglected to mention. Every game that you're able to add to that cabinet will all come with online capabilities where applicable. So, you'll have online competitiveness, you'll have online leaderboards where where it's applicable within a game. So it's not just you're going to have like one or two online games and then all the rest don't work online. Like nothing's more frustrating than me than having like the Midway Legacy, and really the one game I would love to play with people is Gauntlet, and I can only play with one other person standing next to me. I want to play with the full squad, right? Valkyrie needs food. And so I hate that that's not online capable on some of those cabs. So this, you'll get that across the board, which is pretty cool. Iconic really needs an online store their cabs connect to. Some of us already have a room of machines. Pi connected to store would be perfect. And I do think that that's part of the plan. Each cab would have access to, say, the Capcom cabs will have access to a Capcom store front run by Iconic where you could add those titles. Will be more interested in racing cabs, something not already so easy to run on a multicade. Yeah, that's to me too, Mike. That's the sweet spot, right? Is racing cabs, is shooting cabs with the unique user interface cabs that aren't so easily thrown onto a multicade. Comparing preloaded UI to the many image builders you can choose on a Pi, I think someone is writing. Okay, then. Where is the dedicated Bearsis? Mass Cartoon is now on Pluto. Yes, Jason, it is also available, all episodes to stream for free on YouTube, along with almost every other cool classic cartoon, including the Transformers movie, 86 movie, all the good stuff. It's all out there for the taking. Which is why I have multiple multicades, a light gun one, a racing one, exactly. I only want single game marquee titles. You only need one multicade. I knew Stock Jock would love getting bumped for Qbert. Joe Cade's dropping by. Appreciate you. Let's see here. Probably going to wrap up here in just a little bit. Mike of all trades is here. Oh, Paul, you're making content? I had no idea. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, and quite frankly, I really need to learn how to use YouTube because I'm not sure how to do this where you bump people over to another show. I don't see the link in my little streaming tools here for some reason. But what I will have you do is there is more information to be had. So gave you some new inside look from a source at some of the stuff that is going to be included, some of the stuff that is going to be happening. But there is more out there. And I know Paul has some additional information that he is planning to share tonight. I believe he is going to be a guest on the Cornercade soon. It's scheduled to start, I think, here in about 10 minutes. So I'm going to wrap up here. And if you guys want to learn even more about what Iconic has going on, I believe Paul has some information from all his, what does Viserys call them? His little birds. I don't know what the listeners, all his secret leakers and information gatherers. They're Seeker of Arcades. Thanks for dropping in. Really appreciate all you guys being here. And Thor KC says, wait, we do need more than one multicade. I need one pinball multicade, one twin stick multicade, one driving multicade, one shooting multicade, maybe a 2-player fighter multicade. You need all the multicades. Yeah, I don't know what show you're talking about either. So again, you guys want more information, head over to the Cornercade where Paul Mindeman will be spilling some tea. And again, I really do appreciate everybody for being here tonight, hanging out, talking about Iconic. It's great to finally get some more information, to finally see this thing starting to get flushed out. I don't know what more I can say about it. We've beat it to death here over the last hour. Pretty interesting stuff, around the UI, around some of the potential new cabs. I mean, obviously, there's probably a ton of work that goes into actually securing some of those designs and actually getting cabs out. But it's nice that some of the most popular titles that people have been wanting dedicated cabs for a long time are certainly being heavily considered and looked into. And I love the idea that you will be kept going, that you're just like, you bought this one, and when they come out with a new one with new games, you're not left behind. You don't have to rebuy. You'll be able to get those on your existing game or your existing cabinet. So I think that's a great option for budget conscious people that want to invest, versus people that just want the atmosphere of all these different cabs and going to go out and try to be the first, or don't want to hesitate. They finally got their Alien versus Predator released, and so they want to have that in their arcade. I think it's cool to have all these options. I think it's really neat. So let's see how that goes. And of course, Dr. Torque is talking about all the great stuff. We've had quite the recent time. I know Glenn's Kickstarter is coming to a close here. I think 10 or 9 days left. We've got G.I. Joel dropping his stuff. We've got Wonderland reopened their pre-orders, or their Kickstarter orders. You can do, I think they're calling it the late Kickstarter. We've got Basic Fun coming with some new cabs. So exciting times. No. I'll just say go Hawks. Go Hawks. I am definitely not a Chiefs fan. I know Thor Casey is probably a Chiefs fan, but I am not. I live in Broncos country. So again, more news, guys. Head on over. Check out the Cornercade with special guest Paul Mindeman, and he is going to drop some more tidbits on you. Really appreciate everybody being here tonight. And you know what we do here. Until next time, have fun.